Hello, everyone. My name's Dan, and I replace human labor with digital labor. Or said another way, my job is to get rid of your job. And I know so many of you are thinking, like, you look like such a nice guy, gee. So how I go about doing that is I use a variety of technologies, whatever's available to me, and I do what's called business process automation. So I look at business processes all across the entire company, and I automate. And I don't just automate the factory floor, and I don't just automate the warehouse. I'll automate everything from point A to point B. The goal that I have is to make it so that orders pump in on one side and money pops out the other with no human hands in the middle. That's really my goal, and that's what I shoot to do. So I use a variety of things to do that. At different times I'll use robots and different types of technologies. And speaking of robots, robots are very misunderstood because everyone always thinks of the robot from Lost in Space, or the robot from the Jetsons, or the Terminator, all these big mechanized robots that are running amok. These are the things people think of, and those aren't really the robots I'm interested in. Ironically, the robots that I'm most interested in are more like HAL from A Space Odyssey, except of course minus the homicidal tendencies. That's pretty much what I'm most interested in. And the reason I'm interested in HAL is because HAL had a very specific purpose. His job was to run that entire spacecraft. And that's the type of robots that I build. I make things that run the entire spacecraft, the entire company, whatever it is. We want the system to operate and run flawlessly. So how did we get here? I often ask myself that a lot. Why am I here? What am I doing? Why did this go in this direction? And I like to think way back. I was a philosophy major, so I have a tendency to overthink things. I like to think way back to the beginning, when we first crawled out of the primordial ooze, that wherever we came from, and all those little chemical reactions started to happen. And as those chemical reactions started to happen, the ones that continued to thrive, that continued to survive, the ones that were able to continue to adapt themselves were the ones that grew and evolved. And that was the beginning of evolution. And in the process of evolution, we started to develop our bodies. And really, our bodies are kind of our first technology. It's the first thing that we use to go out into the world. And we went out and we started to do things. And we started to convey our vision of what the world should be. And we used our bodies to do that. And then we had another unique thing happen as humans that all other species on Earth, except for otters, I guess otters do this too, but we use tools. We use tools in a way that no other species does. So we started out using these tools as an enhancement to our biology. So we still used number one technology, our body, and then we applied tools to them to increase our efficiency and our ability, but still attached it to our body. And this is where we've been forever, basically, up until about now. All the fancy equipment and technologies and computers and smartphones and everything we have is still basically a tool because it has a human operator attached to it. It makes us smarter, it makes us faster, it does all these things, but if I put it on a desk and I leave it there, it doesn't really do anything. And that's where the switch starts to happen. When you get into automation, you start to automate things so that once the process is put in place, once the technology is doing what it's supposed to be doing, the outcome, the productivity, what actually happens at the end happens without people. And that's the direction that technology is going at this point. That's the thing that we have to all be aware of as we move forward in time. And now as we develop these different things, we have to implement the process. And so in our brains, we start to think about, well, what do I want the outcome to be? And we start to design processes. We start to write them down. We start to tinker around. We try stuff out, see if it worked. Again, we've been doing processes for millions of years, except in the past, all we had was our number one technology, our body. So we got into this habit, and now it's kind of a bad habit. We utilize people in ways that we don't need to utilize them anymore. We use that number one body in our processes. So one person thinks of the process while 50 others have to be responsible for executing it. That's kind of where we're at right now, and that's what we're trying to get away from. So what that means is that as I implement more automation technology and we don't need to have those bodies anymore, What does that mean? Well, obviously, human labor completely changes. The economy doesn't function the way that it currently does because we don't need to attach the body anymore. We don't need the person attached to the tool. The tool doesn't exist. It's just an automated platform now. And then there's a lot of people that say, that's okay. Technology has displaced people throughout history. That's what technology does. It'll spring up different jobs that we haven't imagined yet. Well, there's a group of people, including myself, that think that's kind of a wrong thought because the point up to this point has been tools. We've created more tools, so we still needed to attach the bodies. The bodies became more productive, and they became much more efficient, but we still needed them. The whole point of the way technology is going now is that we don't need the bodies attached anymore to produce the outcome. And that's the direction that we're going. And so that's the reason we have to have this conversation of where are we going next and how are we going to deal with these issues. So I still didn't answer the question, how not to be replaced by a robot. Well, there are certain things that robots now and not anytime in the near future are going to be able to do. And that's the things that make us most human. And that's the things that we've been hearing so much about tonight, which is we have to work our creative mind. We have to go out and discover. We have to go out and design processes. We have to create a vision for the world, and then we have to implement that vision. But when I say implement, I mean we design the process, we have the goal, but we let the machines do the work. That's the future. That's where we're going. So to answer the question in simple terms, how not to be replaced by a robot, be more human.